US is a very important destination for Indian students. According to the latest figures, I think there are close to 333,000 Indian students, which I think makes them the largest international students population in the US. And we have with us the Vice President of Kent State University, and he's here on a special occasion because I believe you're going to formalize an affiliation with an Indian university. Would you like to run us through how the affiliation will help Indian students study abroad, and what kind of a program are you offering?
Thank you very much. Well, we are in India because we have had a center in India for 12 years, and we have been recruiting students and developing partnerships and sending study abroad students to India for 12 years. And our largest student population is Indian. About 40% of our students at Kent State are Indian. But this is a special moment of transition in general for American universities, but also for Kent State, and then maybe my colleague, Associate Vice President Mussi, can say more about this. Kent State is trying to develop a more global footprint by establishing its own programs internationally. We started with Brazil. We traditionally had a program in Florence, in Geneva, in Paris. We are growing in Africa with a program in Rwanda. So now our idea, and this is why it's a special occasion, in 2 days we'll be signing an agreement with Bennett University to create a pathway program, which means that students, Indian students, could take 2 years here in India, the first 2 years of their bachelor, and then they would be offered the option to come to the United States to complete their degree. And at the end of the process, they would be getting a dual degree. And this is really what strategically we would like to implement around the world.
So when is this program likely to start?
I think the idea is for us, and here we are going to launch the program. Bennett is going to start recruiting to the next semester, which I think starts in July. So next July we'll have the first cohort of students enrolled in this program, offering this pathway to go to Kent State.
And what courses are you offering?
Right now, this is directed to fashion students, so fashion merchandise and fashion design. That's the first course, the first major that we are offering. But we have visions to grow into a more than the 300 majors that we offer at Kent State.
And Indian students, there have been reports coming out, have slight reservations on how easy their visa process will be for the US, and whether they would be allowed to work for a year or two after their degrees are completed. Would you have anything to say to that? Is it going to be in continuation with what it was in the past, or are there going to be any changes?
Well, the visa turnout has always been fluctuating over the years. Some years is better than others, and some countries are better than others. I don't really think this is a particularly dramatic situation for visas from India, to be honest. But in addition to that, having an office in India, we really have a major advantage because we can support the students, advise them to interview at the consulates. We can teach them how to send the application. So we are trying to, as much as we can, to mitigate the negative effects of the visas. And then on the other hand, I think there is also a preoccupation about being in the United States. But Kent State, like many other American universities, is a very, very welcoming educational environment. We have about 2,000 international students from 106 countries, and we have an extraordinary tradition in international education. So we really, really work hard on making students feel at home and integrate into our programs.
I can add that for now, we actually don't know if there is a lot of change in the visa process. We don't have the data to say that. There's a lot of perception, but I don't think that's true. Actually, the fact does not confirm that. So we are still receiving a lot of applicants. Actually, the number of international students willing to go to the United States is growing, is still growing. And I think having our presence here build a stronger case for our embassy, the consulates to grant the visa, because Kent State is not a university that admits students for a legal purpose. That's not the case. So Kent State is very rigid in the admission process. So usually the students are very well taken care of for. And with this program for fashion school, especially with Bennett, we believe that the pathway for a visa will be easier, because while they'll be here in India, having those 2 years before transition to Kent State, they will be already Kent State students before applying to a visa.
And the session is starting this year in June?
In July.
In July, sorry. And are there any other universities you're thinking of collaborating with, or is Bennett the only one?
No, it's not the only one. It's the only one that has been successfully finalized. But we started conversations, and we are already developing both the curriculum and all the logistics with another university in Bhubaneswar, the KIIT, the Kalinga Institute of Industrial Technology. And during this visit, Professor Mussi will meet with new partners. Our idea is really to grow substantially our footprint in India with our own academic presence in the country.
And I think that's to add more options. I think that's we're not changing the way that we are not recruiting Indian students to go there. We are still doing that, but we are adding more options and trying to give Indian students that are willing to go to the United States, but they cannot afford to remain there for 4 years. So we are creating a pathway, or they don't feel mature enough to live alone in a foreign country. So we are giving them different pathways to arrive at their final destination, to acquire the competitive skills they will need for their future success.
Are you also offering scholarships to Indian students or undergrad students?
Yes, we have 2 tracks. One track is for normal students coming directly to the United States. We have a very robust scholarship policy that provides to international undergraduate students in particular from a minimum guaranteed of $4,300 up to a maximum of $17,000, and that is merit-based, so it's based on the GPA, etc. And then parallel to that, such as the case with Bennett, for partner universities where we have a 2+2 or a pathway program, we have implemented what we call preferential tuition rate, which is a 50% discounted tuition for all students coming for the last 2 years of their degree to the United States. So this is really opening the doors financially to a much broader audience of international students, considering the fact that Kent State is also a very well-respected institution. We are an R1 institution in research, which means that we are one of the 140 top American universities in research. And 2 years ago, we were awarded the Senator Paul Simon Award as the best international university in the United States. So if you compare what we can offer, plus the very high quality of some of our degrees with the cost, I think we are really creating great opportunities for international students.
Can I add something that we offer a lot of opportunities, and this is embedded in the Kent State DNA to be affordable, to create pathways for the students to have some translation needs, to still receive a very excellent education. That's embedded in our DNA. And one of the advantages of Kent State is Kent State is based in Kent, in Northeast Ohio. So not only the tuition, we make several ways to make the tuition more affordable, but living in Kent is very affordable compared to other parts of the United States as well. So the whole cost of education, not only the tuition, but the whole cost of education is more affordable at Kent as well.
Annually, how many Indian students go to Kent? And following that, I'd like to know why should Indian students consider Kent? What is special in Kent State University which will attract more Indian students?
Well, I could make a list of things. The first one is the quality of our academic programs. I just said about how highly ranked we are for research. Second is because we have a great tradition in internationalization. Kent State was a pioneer in internationalization starting half a century ago. We have a dedicated office that supports international students. Kent State is affordable. And then this is something that the parents like to hear a lot. Kent State is one of the top safest campuses in the entire nation. So I think if you put together all these different ingredients on top of what Paulo was saying, which is Ohio is a welcoming state, but at a lower cost than a major city, I think we really provide the students with a tremendous opportunity.
So you didn't mention how many students, Indian students, go there annually?
Annually, we get about a couple hundred, and now the latest I heard, we have close to 700 Indian students.
And are you expecting more Indian students to come in the years ahead, or is it going to be static for some time?
Well, I think we can still grow, and I think we will grow by adding, as Paulo was saying, options. One is these pathways with 2+2s, and then Kent State has campuses in half a dozen countries around the world, and we would really like to implement recruiting for study abroad for our international destination. So if you combine all of these modalities, definitely we want to grow the presence of Indian students at Kent State, but around the world.
And one last question, how many international campuses do you have? And secondly, if an Indian student enrolls for a 2+2, does he or she have an option to study in a campus outside of the US, like Florence, Brazil?
Yeah, so that's one of the characteristics of Kent State. Since our presence is through partnership, but there are still Kent State students. They take the advantage of the whole network that Kent State has to offer. So we are starting the program here with Bennett University, and one student for fashion wants to spend a semester in Florence, a semester in Paris, a semester in New York, that we have a campus there. They can, because they can actually transform their education, not only in terms of a curriculum perspective, that our curriculum is very international, at the same time they can physically be in different locations and become